YouTube, hello. I filmed 3 videos yesterday and uploaded none of them because they were all over 15 minutes long, which, if you've ever uploaded videos to YouTube, first of all, that takes a while. Second of all, unless you verify your channel, which I don't feel like doing, and I don't know if I even can with no subscribers or viewers, it just doesn't let you. Like, you have to verify your channel first. And I don't feel like doing that. So I talked about the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles trailer, the new game made by Platinum. I ranted about how awesome Platinum is, and you should go play Transformers Devastation if you haven't, and Bayonetta 2. That one game on the Wii U that I can't remember the name of right now, that I haven't even played yet, but I've heard it's really good. And Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance. It's really good. Other than that, I made a video about, I did some other third thing, but I don't remember what it was. And I talked about Hajime no Ippo in one of them, and I want to talk about that here, because I don't really feel like remaking the other two. Oh, I remember, I talked about how I'm rereading Naruto, and it's actually good. I'm at the Zabuza arc right now. I just finished it, and it's actually really good. I'm reading the manga for the first time, and I forgot that Zabuza's arc kind of pulls at your heartstrings a little bit, and it's actually pretty decent. And I was one of those people who used to hate on Naruto, like online, you know? Okay, but Hajime no Ippo. If you've never heard of it, it's a sports anime slash manga. Don't get turned off immediately, though, like I would have 2-3 years ago. It's really good. It's amazing. It just tells the best story ever. In my opinion, it's my favorite manga, which it constantly battles between that and Berserk as my top manga. And it's because Ippo has so many well-rounded characters, and it tells a story in a very real world. It's not fantasy, right? It's very realistic. It's not like Kuroko's Basketball, which is also a really good sports anime, but Kuroko's power is not real, right? That's not a thing, I don't think. I mean, I'm sure there is, but, you know, not really, though. Not to that level. Ippo is very real. Like, there are boxers that are basically Ippo right now. There are boxers that are basically Sawamura right now. And, you know, it's like, literally, those people, because they are the same character. Like, I don't know any boxers, but I've watched, like, matches, and I'm like, oh, this is just, if you recolored it, or if you rewrote it and made it into the manga, it'd be this. And a lot of people, their first reaction to get out of watching this show is, I don't like boxing. And it's like, okay, that's fair, but I didn't either, right? I could have cared less about boxing as a sport. I don't watch sports very often. I only recently started to. And that was due to, you know, anime making everything cool. And then you kind of realize that it's actually, like, sports are really cool when you get down to it. You know, and when everything goes right, it's just, like, it's very satisfying to watch when things happen in sports. I can't explain it, because I don't really watch a ton still. But, you know, sometimes I'll stop and watch when my stepdad's watching something in the living room. I'll just be like, oh, okay, cool. But Ippo is not just about boxing. It's mainly about boxing, but it really, really focuses on the characters that are in the story. And, you know, Ippo is a great protagonist, but he's fairly bland. I say that, but, like, unlike Goku, for example, who's another bland anime protagonist, I'll get crucified for that. The one guy who'll see this is probably the biggest Dragon Ball Z fan, and he'll be like, oh, fuck you. I love Goku. He's great. And Ippo is very similar to him. The difference is that Goku's very full of himself, or sure of himself. And Ippo's the opposite, but he's not in a bad way. He's very realistic in that sense, where you're like, I don't know if I can do this, until you actually start doing something, and he does it, right? He does not believe in himself for the giant majority of the manga and anime. The manga's not over, by the way. It's a big ass manga. But he, like, every time he has to fight someone, he's still worried, like, oh, well, I've never had to fight against someone who can throw flicker jabs before, which is like a very snap in the wrist kind of jab. Don't worry about it. I'm no boxing coach. So he gets like worried about it, right? Even though he's undefeated at this point. And before his first match, he's strong, you know? He hits like a truck, and that's kind of what it's about. It is an underdog story where he's not the most fancy boxer in the world, and he's definitely not the lightest on his feet, but he's arguably the strongest for his weight class, and he's featherweight, which is another weird thing for a shonen manga. Usually it's big, muscly dudes. He weighs like 120 pounds. But man, I don't know. It's such a good manga and anime. Follows Ippo, who one day was getting beat up by a group of bullies because he doesn't have any friends, because he has to go home and help his mom with work because, you know, his dad's not around anymore, which I won't spoil why. So he just never made any friends because he never could go to a club or do the after school stuff with like buddies. So, you know, relationships don't stay around for very long if that happens, or if it doesn't happen rather. So he's getting beat up, and he gets saved by a boxer named Takamura, and he got beat up pretty bad. So Takamura takes him back to the boxing gym because he knows that there's it's nearby, and he knows there's a first aid kit, and he knows how to patch people up, you know, because he gets punched in the face for a living. So that happens, and Ippo wakes up to the sound of, you know, people boxing or exercising in the gym. And, you know, this is a new world for him. He's like, what? Okay. And he thanks Takamura, and Takamura basically tells him to stand up for himself, and Ippo, being like, you know, Japanese, is kind of like, I can't do that. Well, they'll just hit me harder if I do that. And Takamura kind of yells at him, like, the only people I hate more than people that pick on the weak are the weak that refuse to stand up for themselves. And, you know, Ippo's kind of, he starts crying, which is, you know, whatever. He's still a wimp at this point. He's not like that for very long. He gets up and starts to leave, and Takamura's like, oh, okay, wait. And he draws a shitty picture of the bully, and he puts it on a punching bag, and he's like, hit this. And he like wimpily hits it, and he's like, no. And he shows him how to throw a right straight. And Ippo throws a right straight, like just like he showed him. And the bag flies back. Like, if it's like this, it goes like that, which if you've ever hit a punching bag, is not necessarily the easiest thing to do. Like, someone who does not exercise could not really do that with the size of bag he hit. It flew back a decent ways, and that bag was probably 150 to 200 pounds. So yeah, he had a decent right straight for his first time punching ever. And Takamura was like, whoa, holy shit, kid. So he gives Ippo these boxing VCRs, or videotapes, and he's like, here, watch those. Maybe you'll pick up some shit and you'll be able to beat up those bullies or something. So he takes them and he watches them, and he sees there's a car coming behind me. I'm just gonna act very nonchalantly. Yeah, I whiffed. They're probably related to me, I don't know. He watches these tapes at home, and at first he's like, ooh, he's like squeamish, right? And then he starts like getting used to it, like them hitting each other, and it's like championship knockouts or something like that. And then like at the end of the matches, he sees people with their arms raised, and crowds are cheering for them, and even the losers, he sees the people clapping for them as they're walking away. and giving them well wishes and like, that was a great fight. It's not, he didn't see like ridicule, you know? He was he was like inspired by it, and he was like the line is, I wonder what it's like to be strong like them. And when he returns the videos to Takamura, he asks him, I wonder if I could be a boxer. And Takamura kind of yells at him like, this is not something to be taken lightly. Like, you can't do, like, someone with your attitude can't do it. And he like looks him dead in the eyes and basically says like, I can do it, or I want to try. And, you know, another car. So, you know, he's kind of like, you know, he just kind of has that like feeling of like, oh, okay, well, I'll scare the kid off or whatever. So what he has him do is he has him catch 10 leaves in a very anime fashion. Like, you have to like bump this tree so it'll shake, and then he has to catch 10 leaves before there's no more to hit the ground. So he has to do that. And if he can do that, Takamura will introduce him to the gym. Needless to say, he does it, you know. And then his first day, they make him spar the up-and-coming, like, #1 pride of the gym. That's he would be a pro, but he's too young to take the pro test, which seems very unfair because Ippo is still a dorky kid. And I think the reason why was because the Coach Kamigawa just kind of looks at him and is like, fuck this kid, get him out of my gym. And he's like, nah, he won't leave. And then he's like, all right, make him fight Miata. And he fights Miata, and he doesn't do too bad. And that's when, or like, he does bad, but at that point, he learned how to throw a jab, and, I think this is my mic, so, I'm not sure, might be the other side. At this point, he learned how to throw a jab, so, you know, and then he could take a hit, right? And, you know, they let him in after he loses. Spoilers, I guess, whatever. It's the first fight out of like 80 bajillion. But, okay, I'm gonna cut it there with the synopsis, and just go ahead and talk about, because I have like 2 minutes and 30 seconds left. Like, there are so many great characters in this show. There's Kimura and Aoki, which are like background characters, not background characters, they're like side characters that are part of the gym, and they're kind of comic relief, but they have like very real like stuff. Like, they're not the best, but they're also not the worst. They're horribly average, I guess is what you could say. Which in this manga filled with like prodigies. They're not prodigies, that's another thing about this manga. It's not like Kuroko's Basketball, where everyone is just a prodigy, and but they suck with hard work. Ippo sucks at boxing, right? At the start, but through hard work, he gets better. There's like 3 or 4 prodigies in this story that like have only made it that far due to their like natural skill, and like they get their assholes blasted out, like, because they can't keep up with the main characters. Who, Takamura is a naturally good fighter, but he works at it harder than anyone else. And Ippo is not a naturally gifted fighter, but he tries probably harder than Takamura. That's arguable though, because Takamura has to watch his weight and Ippo doesn't as much. So I guess Takamura works harder, but Ippo wants it just as much, you know? And then there's like a lot of Ippo's rivals. I'm just gonna do name drops. Like Sendo is like a color swap of Ippo, and that's why it's awesome. Is like, it's the two same guy, like the same dude fighting each other, but they just have different specials, more or less. It's kind of like a Ryu and Ken thing. And Miata is like the polar opposite of Ippo, where he's an outboxer, and that's his like main rival. That's the Sasuke to his Naruto, or whatever, or the insert rivals here. And then there's Vorg Zangief, who's just cool, and there's other walkers, so I'm gonna end the video here. Bye.